There we go. Hey! Wow. How are you guys? Thanks for joining. Yeah, it was just the microphone. I don't know what happened. He changed the settings for no reason. They were on default, and when they are on default, they're supposed to capture the directly from the laptop. And I had my microphone plugged in, so you guys wouldn't hear anything. Anyway, here I am. Hey, there we go, guys. Thanks for joining to another goddamn Q&A. Glad to have you guys here. Buy my damn books, link in the description. I was just about to rage quit the stream, restart it. Because then what about the people who are going to watch the stream once it's over? They'll probably see me talking and no audio. I'm gonna have to leave a comment or something. Alright guys, so we're back in action. I had a topic ready and I completely forgot about it thanks to this microphone crap. God damn it. Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for joining. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you're watching. I never imagined this possible, earlier today during breakfast I was thinking about how long the internet has come and how we've been, people have had computers since the 70s and shit, but I don't know about the history of the internet with you guys, but in Mexico it took a little bit more to the internet for us to reach our land, our second, almost third world country lands. And I was just watching last night an episode of Law and Order. Yeah, I'm a fan of Law and Order. I'm only a fan of the main series. There's like a million spin-offs of Law and Order, but the main series is the one that I really like. Because it seems the more humane to me, the more mature, the more, deep. And other spin-offs are kind of like not that way. I like Criminal Intent with Vincent D'Onofrio. Special Victims Unit was kind of cool for a while until Christopher Meloni left. The main protagonist, the main actor. And, but anyway, I was watching a Law and Order episode, and there's this episode where the guys are talking to some people, the detectives. And they're, it's a 1995 episode. 1995. Who here in the chat right now is over 30 years old? And who here remembers 1995? I don't know, but I want you guys to tell me that, because in Mexico the internet was like, what the hell was that? Nobody knew what the internet was in 1995. You guys are 36? Okay, you're in your 30s. Wow, a lot of people in their 30s. Alright. Alright, so I guess some of you will not remember 1995 because you were, 5, 6, 7 years old? You probably won't, but here in Mexico we had we had computers, but me and my family, we've always been middle class since I was born. And we didn't have a computer until 1998. I remember we bought a computer, a big ass, with the monitor, that was like huge monitor, completely white. And it had Windows 95. But we couldn't go online, that particular computer couldn't connect to the internet. Right? So, and I was watching this episode last night, and I was like, so they have internet in the US or New York? Law and Order takes place in New York. So they already had internet, because they're talking about forums saying, hey, you were stalking this girl on the internet. In 1995! I don't know, maybe first world countries had the internet since that era, but we didn't, We started getting internet until 1998, 99. I remember, the very first chat forums online. Messenger, Hotmail's Messenger, I remember they came out around that time, 1999. You know, I remember that our computer was already outdated because it had Windows 95. So we got this tech to install Windows 98. So then we had two computers. You know, my brother had one, and I had another one for myself. My computer was 98, Windows 98, and I couldn't connect to the internet. You know, it was just there. I was writing stuff in there, and I had what's the name of that little game? I mean, most computers back then came with Solitaire. You know Solitaire, right? Come on, and there was this other. I know the name is Spanish. It's Buscaminas, but not in English. What's the name in English? You know, for that other mini game that came in most computers back then. But anyway, that was all I was doing with my computer. You know, my brother had the internet. Minesweeper, thanks, man. Minesweeper. So he had the internet, but it wasn't until 1998 or 9. So I don't know. We got a 3-year difference, I guess. It was just interesting, you know. This is not a topic that I prepared, you know. I was just curious, you know. I'm just making time for more people to join. But yeah, I mean, I was just very curious to see 95, you know, playing. I mean, people on the internet, online, you know, it was a new thing, and they're talking on the show as if it was a new thing, you know. Oh, the internet, this internet stuff is a new thing, so it's been there since 95. How much it's changed, right? I mean, it became a way for people to slowly connect, you know, from all over the world. And now it's being used as a place for people to hate and attack each other from all over the world. How beautiful, this beautiful evolution, you know. Go science, go technology. If you're just joining, then skip to minute number 2. The first 2 minutes are muted. Now that person is probably, you know, joined since the beginning of the stream. Audio is fine right now. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I remember lots of websites from back then. Messenger, Angel Fire, Napster, the whole Napster, you know, controversy and drama back then. Napster. You know, it was thanks to Napster that I got to know some bands that I didn't know. You know, like the Deadlights or Babylon Zoo. Anybody remember Babylon Zoo? I bet nobody does. They had this really one-hit wonder. It was this really one-hit wonder band with a hit called Spaceman. Badass track. That's how I found out about Rosetta Stone. A bunch of bands from the 90s, you know, and bands that never really made it. 80s and 90s, you know. That's how I got to know a lot of bands. But I was never a computer, you know, gaming guy, a PC gamer. I remember, you know, we were playing on floppy disks. If you're like 20 years old, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, we had these floppy disks and these 3.5-inch disks, you know, and that's where our games were. And we had to insert in the computer and wait a long-ass time for them to load and to prepare. And I played some games, but I was never a fan of playing with a keyboard because I had grown up with the controller of the NES. You know, and we didn't have the Atari. Well, the Atari was already outdated when I started gaming. You know, I was born in '85, and by the time we got our NES, it was 1990. You know, the Super Nintendo was just around the corner. Everyone was talking about it. You know, Atari. My cousins had an Atari, and I remember I went to their house and I, you know, with the stick and the button, you know, and I was like, "The hell is this? This is horrible. You know, this is horrible. You know, give me back my controller, my regular controller, right?" So yeah, I never liked the Atari. I never appreciated the Atari because we didn't have a video game system until 1990 when my aunt gave us the NES, and that was it. You know, that's how I got into gaming. But anyway, you know, nobody asked that. Anyway. Oh, I did that not with CDs, with cassettes. This guy says the kids in high school selling mixed CDs with music from Napster. I did that with cassettes, you know. I didn't use Napster. Well, sometimes I did. But I was like, you know, I bought the CDs. I had this stereo, you know. This, CD player. which was also a cassette player, and I used to record several songs from different artists, different bands, in one cassette, and pass around that cassette to my friends in middle school. It wasn't high school, in middle school. In middle school, I was just passing them, and sometimes I would sell these cassettes for like $1 or less than $1, like 50 cents. And later, we got to the CDs, and I couldn't do that, but I had some. My brother had some friends who could do just that. Download music from Napster, Angel Fire, and those websites. And put them on a CD and sell it. And I bought a bunch of CDs from this guy, my brother's friend. He was from Colombia, and he was selling these CDs for like $1. Yeah. Back in the day. You dye your hair? I have the same age and lots of gray hair. No, I don't dye my hair. It's different things. People here in Mexico, are a little bit different because I'm not exactly Aryan. I'm white. I know I'm white, but I'm not white per se. That's why people here take a little bit more to age. I already have gray hairs, just a few of them. They are noticeable, but probably in 5 years I'll start having more notorious gray hairs and white hair, but people here age a little bit slower than Aryans, because I don't know, I have no idea why, but my parents are Mexican, my grandparents are also Mexican from both sides, but their parents, my great grandparents, on my mom's side, they are from Germany and Spain. And from my dad's side, they are from France and Spain as well. Well, Spain conquered Mexico. So, of course, more than half of Mexicans, have Spanish roots from Spain, obviously. But I happen to have, roots from Germany. And my real last name is Horner. 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 That's a German last name. And that's my second last name. We have 2 last names in here. I think some of you in some countries don't have them. You're just John Doe, and that's it. No, in here we are like John Doe Dan. John Doe something, we have 2 last names. The father's last name and the mother's last name. So my father's last name is from Spain, Spanish. And my mother, it's German. So yeah. Were you ever an English literature teacher in a uni? No, I was a particular teacher, that's how we call them here in Mexico. Particular teachers are like the ones who don't teach in a school. We go to people's houses and teach their kids in there. I was a music professor, a basic music professor. I was teaching basic courses, that lasted for like a year, 6 months, a year. But I only taught a bunch of kids, and I realized I wasn't good material for a teacher. I just didn't have the patience, I kind of sucked at teaching people. Sometimes I try to teach things in here in these channels, with video games, the history of them, and it works. But teaching music is another thing, and music it's kind of different from the music in other countries. We have different terminologies. You guys, for example, in the guitar, you guys use the A, B, C, D system, and we use do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, mi. I do have a Discord. It's exclusive for Patreons. Go to patreon.com. I have a Patreon. You can support this channel if you like it, and if you enjoy what I do. It's important to support your content creators because YouTube, yeah, man, it's a censorship nest, and it's also thanks to the inflation. I guess it's thanks to the inflation. Some of us are making less money than what we were making last year, for example, or 2 years ago. But yeah, if you want to support this channel, Patreon, and you get access to my Discord. And I'm very active in there, if you guys want to hang out, listen, read my rants. I rant a lot in that Discord. And I also give a lot of heads up, there's a bunch of people that are part of that Discord here, which they can vouch for what I'm saying. Then I think, I give him heads up, I'm playing Soul Hackers 2 right now, and I've already disclosed a few things of the game, even though I'm not supposed to. Because when you get review codes, sometimes they make you feel, these companies, like you're signing an NDA. Like you cannot say anything at all and are strictly prohibited from saying anything and from showing anything until the release date, which is called the embargo. The embargo, you have an embargo when you're a reviewer, and yeah, you guys are probably wondering, wait a second, did he say he's playing Soul Hackers 2? Oh yeah, we need to talk about that, man. I'm not sure if this is gonna be a topic for my second channel, but I kind of want to, because you guys know it was a huge controversy back then, but I'll get that in a bit. So I was saying that I think I'm not every single day 100% active in that Discord, but I try to be there in as much as I can, read what other people say. It's a very active Discord, it's not dead. Lots of people sharing different perspectives, stories, experiences, opinions on video games, And it's, there's no trolls. Well, there's a couple of trolls, but they're friendly trolls. I mean, it's okay. Nobody's really, attacking anybody or hating anybody in there, It's a good place to be there, And it's moderated by yours truly. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, we need to talk about the fact that Atlus. This is a big thing. I have 100 people watching, so it's about time I start talking about this. So I wanted to tell you guys that Atlus finally apologized to me. Believe it or not, they reached out and apologized. So for those of you who don't remember or don't know what happened, at the beginning of October last year, I asked another YouTuber for a contact from Atlus. I asked him, can you give me an email, so I can reach out and ask for a Shin Megami Tensei 5 review code? Because I have been hyping that game for a long time, I had made several videos already about the dramas, the controversies of that game, how it kept getting delayed, But I was also saying that I was really excited, when the game was finally announced, I made this video when I was so hyped and say, man, we're finally getting this game, it looks amazing, right? So I reached out to Atlus, to the Atlus PR. What's PR? It's the press email. These are the people who manage social media and give review codes to YouTubers. Okay, so I reached out, I sent an email to this guy, and I didn't hear back. I didn't hear back at all. So I found a website called Woovit, WOOVIT, Woovit.com. It's for YouTubers, and both my buddy Taylor from the Gaming Shelf, thank you, public relations, that's what PR means, yeah, right. So we both applied, because we didn't hear back from this guy. We never heard back from this guy, and he was the guy, giving codes to people from Atlus games. So we subscribed to this website, and we, like a few days later, he got the code, and I didn't. And time passed, and it seemed like everybody was getting the code for Shin Megami Tensei 5 except me. And well, you know what happened last year. If you remember the drama from last year, I will probably never know if that's related or not. It probably is, but I have no idea. But what happened is that before that drama, I sent another email to Sega PR. It was probably the wrong email, but I sent an email to them, and they never replied either. So I went on Twitter, I tweeted, the Atlus PR, same thing, completely ignored. So you know the story already. So someone's saying, maybe they blacklisted you. That's what I think, maybe they blacklisted me, because when the game came out, it turned out, everyone and their mom got their code, except me. So I obviously, you guys know what happened, I felt very offended, I felt like, betrayed. I was like, man, fuck these guys. And at the end of my review from Shin Megami Tensei 5, because I ended up buying the game, I was like, man, how am I not gonna make a review of this game after hyping the game so much, months before? So I ended up buying the game, paid full price. That's something I rarely do with video games. So I paid full price and I made a review, and at the end I say, to the person who ignored my emails, go fuck yourself, right? Something like that. I think I said, go to hell, motherfucker. That was awesome. If I may brag a little, that was awesome. But anyway, so I told the story in several Q&As, blah blah blah. Time passed, I gave up. I was like, man, so the Atlus PR hates me, right? So about a week ago, last week, not this one, last week, I got an email from this website that I told you about, Woovit, Woovit.com, Woovit, whatever. I got an email. Hey, Atlus is inviting you to try Soul Hackers 2. And I was like, is this some kind of mistake? So I did some research, and I did this research a long time ago, and I found out it was, I think, in January, because I was still upset, and I want to know who specifically had ignored my emails and my requests. And I found out who it was, and it turns out this person quit around the same time, codes were being handed to YouTubers. I think this person gave codes to everybody except me, and then I'm not sure if this person quit the company or he was fired, or I don't know, but I found out on his Twitter that he was saying that I'm no longer working for Atlus, I'm working for another company. And I was like, oh, so it all leads, this is not a fact, but it's a theory that maybe this guy, had a thing against me, he didn't want to give me the code, and, that's it. So what happened is that I got the code from Soul Hackers. I downloaded the game, I installed it in my PlayStation 4, and I was like, I can't believe it, Atlus just gave me a code. So it was weird, so I reached out to them. There was an email there, and I copied it, pasted it on my email, and sent them a message saying, hey, I'm kind of confused, I was polite. I know I may come off as a guy who's not polite, or reasonable because I rant and swear, but I'm not, in real life I'm very polite. I sent an email to these guys and said, hey, so I told them what happened last year. I said, hey, so I told them everything, so this happened to me, I really wanted a code for Shin Megami Tensei 5. I sent 3 emails to different people. I tweeted them on the PR and I was completely ignored. So I'm kind of, confused that you're giving me a code for Soul Hackers 2 right now and when you ignored me back then. So what's going on in there? I'd like to know, because if you see it from a certain perspective, I felt insulted back then. So why should I review their games and advertise them, after what they did to me? And they apologized. They replied. I wasn't expecting a reply. I was like, man, they ignored me once. It's a guarantee they're going to ignore me twice, They probably made a mistake, didn't know it was me, when they sent the code. So I was like, so I'll just take advantage of that and that's it, I'll probably never hear from them again. And then I did. They sent an email list and they apologized. I just can't believe it, They said, hey, we're sorry, the person who was giving out review codes for Shin Megami Tensei 5 is no longer working with us. He may, of course they washed their hands and they said, oh, so this person, may, he didn't have enough time to give everyone a code, everyone asking for a code, which is fucking bullshit because me and my buddy Taylor from the Gaming Shelf, we applied the exact same afternoon and sent, and it's just, and he got the code, not me. Come on, Atlus, come on. So somebody said, oh, I got these 2 guys, and I'm going to send the code to this guy, but not to this one. Come on. But anyway, they had the decency to apologize and said they blamed it on the guy. They blamed everything on the guy who left. So that's pretty convenient. But I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I don't know the truth. I don't know what happened. Maybe they don't know what happened either. Maybe this was precisely a personal vendetta from this guy from the previous PR against me. I don't know. The music's gone. You're right. There we go. So I don't know. This is all speculation, but everything leads me to believe, all the evidence gathered, leads me to believe that this guy hated me. And Atlus was like, fuck this guy, we're sending Eric Landon a code because we know he's a JRPG channel with 80,000+ subscribers. So, it's convenient for us to send him a code so he can advertise the game. Because I'm also thinking that Shin Megami Tensei 5 didn't really need a lot of publicity. I mean, the game, I don't know how many copies it sold. I think it's almost 1 million copies. It was a very hyped, very expected, very anticipated game. While Soul Hackers is way more obscure, and they probably need all the help they can get to advertise this game. And that's it. Yeah, but the thing is, they told me, yeah, we apologize for this, for what you went through, but we hope we can now establish this new relationship, and we hope you enjoy Soul Hackers 2 and share, your opinion on the game. Thanks. And I was like, I had really mixed feelings about that email, but I guess in the end, deep down, I was happy. I was happy to see that Atlus kind of recognized that they, not exactly that they made a mistake with me, but that they did something that was, what's the word here? I don't want to say wrong, but that's the word I'm gonna use. They did something wrong. They wronged me last year. I wasn't entitled. No YouTubers out there are entitled to get codes. But the least I could have gotten back then when I sent 3 emails and a tweet was a simple reply. Maybe they could have played dumb and said, "Oh, sorry, we don't have any more review codes for this game." It happened to me once with another company, for a code of another game. I don't remember which game it was, but I asked for a code and they told me, "Oh, yeah, we ran out of codes. Sorry for this, and that's okay." It's just, you guys are saying it was a mistake. I'm not sure it was a mistake because I think it was. There's a lot we don't know, guys. There's a lot we don't know. But the point is that Atlus apologized to me, and now I'm playing Soul Hackers 2. In case you're interested in knowing, I can't talk much about it because, like I said before, it's like sometimes when they send you review codes, you don't sign any NDA. What's an NDA, you ask? It's a non-disclosure agreement where you have to sign not to reveal anything about something, So, but they make you feel that way. I mean, they send you this email and in caps and in black letters, they tell you, do not stream the game, do not review it, do not show gameplay footage until its release date or a couple of days before. There's an embargo date for everything. And I'm always like, man, do they really have to be so explicit with that? I mean, it's just, wow. Hey, here's your review code for this game. Enjoy it. This is the code for the PS4. Hope you enjoy the game. Blah, blah, blah. Do not stream it. Do not talk about it. Do not mention anything. Like, it's like that. Man, it's kind of like intimidating, Oh, okay, I won't talk about your game. Sorry for even thinking about it. But anyway, I am 14 hours into the game, I think. I started playing it right after I finished Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I think the best thing I can say is that I am enjoying the game. I think it's really good. Obviously, I have some good and bad things to say about it, but I'm going to have to wait till the game comes out to make my review. This will probably be the first time. Well, I haven't decided if I'm going to make a review of the game. But if I do, it'll probably be one of the very first times I make a review on day one. Something like that. The game comes out and that's the day you'll probably see my review if I do it. No promises, but I'm playing the game, I'm liking it, and Shin Megami Tensei games are not known for being long. Unless you play on hard mode and you do every single side quest. I finished a bunch of Shin Megami Tensei games in my life and I played a lot of them, most of them. Well, except the ones that never came out of Japan. And I've noticed that most of them are probably 25 to 30 hours in, so it's not going to take me that long. It took me long to finish Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But Soul Hackers, I get the feeling it's not going to be that long. Soul Hackers 2. And what else? I wish I could tell you more about the game, some details, but I can't. Some small stuff that I don't think is gonna be a problem for me to tell you guys right now is that one of the first things I noticed is that just like in the previous game on the 3DS, well, the first thing you ought to know is that what you probably already saw in the trailers, if you've watched the trailers. So the first game on the 3DS, which was originally released on the Sega Saturn, only in Japan, this is a game that is no longer a dungeon crawler in first person. When you walk like this, like in squares, right? In first person. You can only move in 4 directions. No, this is a third person dungeon. I guess it's a dungeon explorer, not crawler. But the dungeons are still really long and full of puzzles. It's a Shin Megami Tensei game, alright, and you don't feel that right from the start, but after the first few dungeons, you start noticing that's a Shin Megami Tensei game right there, long ass dungeons, and puzzles. And there's no random encounters, you can see the enemies, but the enemies remind me, they go in these really bizarre looking. I think you probably noticed on the trailers how these monsters look from the outside before you touch them and enter a battle. A turn-based battle, by the way. And you do this, and they kind of remind me, the design, how they look like pixelated computer things, glitches. They look like that. Just like they did in Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Apocalypse. They just pop up out of nowhere, and you can slash them and prevent them from ambushing you or something like that. And there's no press turn system. The previous game didn't have it either. No press turn system. That means if you exploit an enemy's weakness, you don't get an extra turn. And if the enemies do the same to you, they don't get an extra turn. They just attack you with something you're weak against, and that's it. However, there's these new things called, I'm not sure if this was shown in the trailers. This might be the only thing that I'm not supposed to say it. But I'll say it nonetheless, and that's it. That'll be it. If you strike an enemy's weakness, that demon can get to attack at the end of the turn. And if three of your demons, attacked an enemy's weakness, then those 3 demons perform like some kind of all-out attack, like in Persona. A little bit like that, like an all-out attack, on the enemy. At the end of the character's turn, the player's turn. And that's it, that's all I'm gonna say. I wish I can't read. Stories completely off limits. And that's what they always tell you doing these, when they send you review codes. That's the one thing that you cannot talk about at all. The story. So, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything about the story. But yeah, anyway, so these gameplay mechanics that I just told you, that's pretty much the game in a nutshell, and it's pretty good so far. No, I don't get review codes from Square. I don't have the contact, and they never reached out to me before. We have theorized in the past multiple times that I'm probably blacklisted in in Square Enix because, man, I talked some really bad shit about Square Enix, over the course of my YouTube career. That's the only company where I'm almost sure, I'm blacklisted. But maybe, it's probably that they don't know about me, or they just have never reached out to me. Square Enix has never reached out to me. A subsidiary of Square Enix reached out to me for Final Fantasy Origin, Stranger of Paradise. They gave me a code for the game on Steam, and I didn't even reply. I was so mad that I was like, man, all of these amazing games, all of your little strategy RPGs. And you guys know me, I'm a hardcore fan of strategy RPGs. Why not send a review code to me of Triangle Strategy or the upcoming Diofield Chronicle, right? Like, aren't I the right guy for this, Oh, he loves strategy RPGs. His channel is known for... But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they don't know about me at all. They don't even know who I am. We're talking about Square Enix. Wow, there's like 1 million YouTubers they have to send codes to. So I don't blame them if they have no idea who I am. Anyway. No, I probably won't get review codes for those games. Man, Valkyrie Elysium, I insulted the game. Right? I said it was an insult to Valkyrie Profile fans. I'm pretty sure I probably won't get a review code. Anyway, yeah. Having trouble joining the Discord. I joined the second tier of a Patreon. Thanks, Sorba. Oh, Patreon is kind of weird. I've seen over the past 2 years that sometimes when people join, it sends them the code, and sometimes they don't. So I'll send it to you manually in a bit. Sorry about that, man. Thanks for joining, by the way. Thank you very much. But I'll send you the code. If you didn't get it, I'll send it to you myself. Anyway, back to your goddamn questions. Here's a question. Do you have to have played Soul Hackers 1 to understand the story in 2? I don't know, man. So far, I'm only like 14 hours in, and I have barely seen... There's some lore in there, but I haven't seen any connections. But that's all I'm about to say. That's all I'm allowed to say. I can't really talk about the story that much. But I'm not saying connections, direct connections. So I don't think you need to play the first one. This one feels standalone. Maybe I'll get Xenoblade Diofield Chronicles. How were you introduced? Oh, that's a good question. Wasn't I talking about this at the beginning of the stream? How were you introduced to gaming? How was I introduced to gaming? Right, so I was just telling at the beginning of the stream that when I was 5 years old, my mother took us, me and my sister and my brother, to my aunt's house, my uncle's house, and our cousins, who are a little bit older than us, 5 years older than us, they had the NES. But my cousins were always more on the sports side of things, they didn't care much about video games or action figures. And me and my sister were all about that. My brother didn't care about that much either, He was never really a gamer. He's played some games in the past and enjoyed them passionately, but he has never been a real gamer, but an action figures guy, Me and my sister, we were playing with toys and video games all the time. My sister did change, when she got into middle school. That's a story for another time, Maybe I'll talk about that today in a bit. I won't talk about that, because she's a woman. And my mom, this is Mexico. I'm pretty sure this back in the day it was a similar problem in most countries. That video games were toys for men, for kids, for male kids, right? They were advertised as such, so parents didn't want their little girls to play video games. So we'll get into that in a bit. So how I got into gaming was, pretty much with the NES. I went to my aunt's house, and they had the NES plugged in. She had, she wasn't playing, obviously, but her kids were. Sorry about the music. That's Atelier Ryza playing right there. So, what happened is that, we went to her house, and she had that cartridge with Mario Bros, Super Mario Brothers, and Duck Hunt. So that was the first thing we tried. That was my first video game I ever played, Mario freaking Brothers and Duck Hunt with the gun. She had the gun. And she also had Excite Bike, racing game with bikes, pretty cool, and Skate or Die. Skate or Die, that's one game that I didn't know it was bad. It was considered as a bad game back then. I loved it, but I kind of forced myself to love it. Yeah, more on that later. Maybe I'll make a video one day, games that I was forced to like. Because I didn't have anything else. I mean, if you guys grew up in similar situation like me, that back then, in the 90s, we only had a bunch of games. It's not like today where everybody's got a huge backlog. Everybody can emulate anything, we have a bunch of games, consoles. No, back in the day, we were stuck with only 3 freaking games for an entire month. Or a long periods of time, that's just it. Those are your 3 games, you're fucked. Eventually, my mother gave in, and we were begging for an NES, and since my aunt didn't want the NES and my cousins didn't want it, they didn't care for it, she gave it to us. And that was awesome, So I was like, oh, yeah. And my mom was happy because she didn't have to spend a single penny on video games. But she ended up doing later. One thing I want to tell you guys is that my mom was very strict about arcades. I tried some arcade games. The first arcade game that I tried was Street Fighter 2. On a freaking convenience store. The machine was there. My brother and my mom was doing something else. So my brother and I were kind of like, hey, come on. Yeah, let's do it. Let's play something before she comes back and finds out. So we played there, and it was my very first time playing. My brother had played the game before, and I remember I kicked his ass. I picked Blanca, the green guy with the orange hair. And I picked Blanca, and I was just smashing buttons. I was 5 years old, probably 6 years old, I don't remember. I was smashing buttons, and I beat my brother, and he was so mad. Beginner's luck, I guess, right? And I remember that very clearly. And then my mom came back, and she was like, I see. So I go away for a bit, and you do what I prohibited you from doing. Yeah, so she wasn't a fan of the arcades. We did end up going to several arcade machines, arcade places, but it was very limited. So that's why a lot of people think, they ask me, why don't you talk more about arcade games on your videos or something, It's because of that, because I barely touched them, until I was in middle school, and me and my classmates and my friends used to sneak out from school and then go to the mall. And they had this arcade place, and we would play video games in there, But it was just not as often for me as with the arcades. So also, I've always been a console guy, I've always been an NES guy, I grew up with the NES, everybody else had the NES and the Game Boy. So we were always lending each other cassettes, that's how I found out about a lot of games. My mom eventually gave in, and every now and then used to take us to this store where you could rent games. We did a lot of rentals, my siblings and I, and I became a fan. It never went away. My mom was always expecting, I guess my mom was always expecting me to grow out of video games. My sister did. She still plays every now and then. Whenever we see each other, we play Crash Bash, International Superstar Soccer. Those two are our favorite games to play together. Crash Team Racing, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the Super Nintendo. But like I said, I think my mom was always expecting us to grow out of video games, and my sister kind of did. My brother definitely did. I never did. And she was always kind of resentful for that, She didn't like video games, But it was just, yeah. And then before you ask what was my first JRPG, that was Final Fantasy Legend 2. I didn't know what Final Fantasy was. I didn't know what an RPG was. I was in middle school, first year, and my friend had a Game Boy. I had a Game Boy, and he said, you gotta try this game. It's like something you've never seen before. I don't know what kind of game is this. It's not like, you don't go from left to right and shoot people or jump over platforms, or it's not Tetris. It's just, what is this? And I borrowed the game, and that was like, wow. It was a turn-based RPG, but I didn't know that back then. And I was blown away. And that's how I got into RPGs. Later, 5 years later, I got into Super Mario RPG. 3 years later, I got into Chrono Cross, and you know the rest. So that's how I got into gaming. That's my story, my nostalgia story. So pretty much, maybe you were expecting me to mention I got into gaming by this extraordinary event. No, I just went to my cousin's place, played Super Mario, the end. I could have saved you 5 or I don't know, more minutes of this entire story by just answering, I play Super Mario, the end. Anyway, yeah. So now let's talk about the other topic that I want to talk about, and it's a little bit sensitive nowadays, but you gotta understand this is how things were back in the day, and they were like this not long ago. Today, things have changed considerably. A lot of women play video games, but let's say 10 years ago, last decade, it was still like some kind of stigma, Video games were for boys. And that's how I was taught, That's why my mother didn't really like my sister playing video games. I mean, she couldn't stop her. My sister was heavily influenced by me when we were kids. We were always hanging out together, playing with action figures. You know, my brother is 4 years older than us, so, you know, we weren't the best friends growing up. You know, I was always hanging out with my sister. And video games have always been for everybody. In Japan, since the beginning, there's been female protagonists, you know, games targeted for girls, you know, but in the West, and you probably know that, video games were always for boys, most of the time. So I remember when I was in elementary school, during the 6th year, because during my first 5 years, I was in a boys-only school, but in my 6th and final year of elementary school, you know, it was a mixed school, boys and girls. And I clearly remember, you know, girls were totally against video games. They cared nothing for them. In fact, they were kind of against them. They were like, you play your video games, that's a boy thing. And I always felt from back then that something was wrong, you know, because, why? Because my sister was playing video games. So I was like, what do you mean this is for boys? My sister plays video games with me all the time. It's not for boys, it's for everybody. But that was it back then. You know, video games, all types of video games were for boys. I think the first time I saw another girl playing a video game apart from my sister and her friend, we had a friend, she had a friend, and we were borrowing games from her on the Game Boy. I think the first time I saw with my own two eyes another girl playing a video game was Dance Revolution. It was a dancing game. And back then, dancing, at least here in Mexico, dancing was for girls. Boys, dancing was not for boys, no. Maybe when we were older, you know, and going to, you know, the bars, pubs, or, you know, discos or whatever. You know, but when we were kids, you know, dancing was for girls. That was a girl thing, not a boy thing. So you see, it was pretty much like that. I don't know if it was the same in your country, wherever you're watching me from. But in Mexico, you know, where I live, it was like that, you know. There were several things that were girls only, and things that were like boys only, you know. And video games was one of them, you know. It was just... And, you know, we can't really blame our parents for that, because, remember, do a little research and you'll find out that the NES was actually targeted as a toy, as an entertainment system, because they didn't want to advertise the NES outside of Japan like a video game system, you know. So it was like that. It was targeted like that, and toys like that, you know, were for kids. And sure, most of the video games we were getting, the protagonist was a guy saving a girl. So that was another issue. Because, you know, when I got older, you know, and because when we were kids, nobody knew. You ask a girl why doesn't she like video games, and she didn't even answer. You know, she didn't even know. She just said, oh, because I'm not supposed to. But when we got older, you know, and we were, you know, on middle school, I remember some of my classmates saying, oh, because, you know, I don't want to play as a guy saving a girl. And there were already video games where the main character was a girl, but they stayed in Japan. They never brought them to North America, you know. How many video games can you count from the early 90s, or even mid-90s, you know, where the main lead is a girl? And it's not about saving the girl. The video game is not about saving the princess, you know. So I think it was a Mario thing. I think Mario and Zelda were two of the most extremely popular video games in the entire planet. And they're both about a guy saving a princess, a damsel in distress. So there's, you know, little by little more games started, you know, gaining more popularity. Metroid is one example. Phantasy Star was not popular in Mexico. Metroid, people knew about it, but that's it. You know, people were always mostly on the surface in video games here in Mexico. They only knew the really popular ones. And some games were very popular in North America with a female protagonist, but not in Mexico. Phantasy Star, what the fuck is that? Nobody knew that shit, man. Metroid, nobody knew that shit. And since Metroid was a really hard game on the NES, you know, barely anyone knew that the protagonist was a girl. Nobody knew. And then in the mid-90s, we started getting more and more video games with girls as the main characters. You've mentioned some, Parasite, Tomb Raider, Valkyrie Profile, you know, others. So that stigma slowly started dying and more girls started getting into video games. But I don't think it was because of that. I don't think that has a lot to do, at least not here where I live. I think the major thing it was because every single video game was advertised as a thing for boys. Even though a lot of video game commercials showed girls or teenage girls or adult girls, playing them, for the longest time, even in the early 2000s, no, video games were for boys. So it's not their fault, I'm pretty sure a lot of girls that don't play video games. I know for a fact, I know, dude, I think in real life, in person, not on the internet, in person, local, besides my sister that kind of likes them because she outgrew them, she kind of doesn't care about video games. She stopped caring a long time ago, like 20 years ago. But one of my best friends, she's a girl and she loves video games. She's a gamer like you guys and me. That's the only girl I know that likes video games. Sure, I mean, you go to gaming shows, you go to anime conventions, and I've seen a lot of girls playing video games, But me personally, friends, that's the only friend I got. So you see, it's changed drastically in the last few years. In the last decade, it changed drastically. Now, it's pretty normal. You go outside, you talk to girls, they know about video games. That's normal. It wasn't back in the day. It wasn't back when I was a teenager or a young adult, Video games, all genres, were for boys. So, yeah, I think it's more on that side. Because I didn't want to turn this into I don't want to get into the feminism topic, Because here it was bullshit, Girls didn't play video games, but it wasn't because they weren't, female heroines in them. That's horseshit, It's because they were told video games were for boys, So imagine if you were a girl back then, and you liked the video games, you had to hide it from your other girlfriends, from your female friends, so they wouldn't find out and bully you. And say, oh, what are you doing? You're a girl, you're not supposed to play video games. So that was the situation back then. So, yeah. Random topic, I just wanted to talk about that because I've never talked about that in this channel. I talked about this in Discussion Gamer with my friend Oscar. We made a video called Why Girls Don't Play Video Games, what most girls don't play video games. And, well, I'm very glad things have changed because since the inception of video games have always been for everybody. It was never supposed to become a boy toy, a boy thing. So I'm glad things have changed this much. And that's it. Back to your goddamn questions. Let me just answer this message a little bit. We got a problem here. Man, my brother is sick with some kind of weird virus, not COVID, and we every Sunday we meet at my parents' house to eat, and he's not supposed to go because he's sick with a freaking virus that can infect the whole family. What the fuck? Hey, what am I currently playing? Soul Hackers 2. Do you play fan-made Fire Emblem games like ROM hacks and such? Yes, I do. In fact, Fire Emblem is the only thing that I play when it comes to ROM hacks. That's the only thing that I play. I've never played a Chrono hack, all those Chrono Trigger hacks, I've never played any other Pokemon, There's a lot of hacks for a lot of things out there. Zelda, Mega Man. The only ROM hacks I've ever played, fan-made projects, are Fire Emblem games. And I played a bunch. I played the Road to Ruin. That was the first one. Requiem, my favorite. Turned out to be my favorite, Requiem. Because some of these games are better than the main official Fire Emblem games, in my opinion. I played Justice and whatever. Pride and Justice, I think. One where you're a little band of mercenaries. That was brutally hard. Really, really hard. The hardest by far of all the ROM hacks. And there's this other one called, which is really funny, and they used video game music. Yeah, I remember that when you go into battle in this ROM hack, in this Fire Emblem ROM hack, You listen to the Valkyrie profile music battle theme. What was the name? I forget about the name. But anyway, yeah, I've played a bunch, and most of them have been great, like really great. Did you play the Tear Saga games? I only played the first one on the PlayStation, and I finished it. I beat it, and I couldn't believe it because that game is one of the hardest games I've played in my life. It was so freaking unbalanced. Thracia level, Thracia 776 level, you know, kind of broken, you know. Some missions were like, this is impossible. How am I supposed to complete this map? Broken ass game, man. Tear Saga, but it's great. I still loved it. I haven't played the other one, the second one on the PlayStation 2. How much do you care about a good translation in games? I care about a lot, you know. Ever since I was younger and I started to understand English, I've always had the feeling that sometimes translators take a lot of liberties, and we get some of the humor changed, some of the jokes changed, and we still are. Now that I'm playing Soul Hackers 2, sometimes the characters make these jokes that are like, that's an American joke. Japanese people don't talk like that, you know, and these are Japanese characters, you know. So still nowadays, you know, I wish translations were more faithful to the original source, even if they're telling jokes that we don't understand. I mean, most of us play anime, have been playing JRPGs for a long time, so we probably already understand a lot of jokes that they tell in Japan, and those jokes don't exist in the West, but we understand them and we find them funny, you know. There's a lot of jokes in anime series that are like, that's so Japanese, you know, so I don't know why they bother changing everything, westernizing everything, you know. I fucking hate that. So yeah, I'm not exactly a purist, but I'm just too lazy to learn Japanese myself, way too lazy, because it's an entirely new alphabet. They you know, write in symbols that we have no clue about. But sometimes it makes me wish that I knew Japanese so I could understand, you know, the text. This is important because it's just, I mean, most of the time it's fine, you know. Most of the time they're translating the story as it is, and that's it. And sometimes they come up with some sentences in Japan that, even translated properly, make absolutely no sense. You know, I'm an author. I have my books, most of them written in Spanish. But when I did my first translations, most of my books are in English. Most of them, not all of them. Some of them were originally written in English. But some of them, like Seven Shadows or Nick's Inferno, these are books that I originally wrote in Spanish, and I translated them to English myself. And when I did the translation, I noticed some sentences that, man, how am I gonna say this in English? This is a very Spanish thing or a Mexican thing, you know. Even people from Spain, you know, reading this book in Spanish wouldn't get it. So I was like, how am I gonna say this in English, you know? So I get it, you know. I can easily put myself in the people who localize games, in their shoes. I can easily put myself in their shoes because I know what it's like to have to change the context of things, even if you don't want to. But I just think that they take a lot of liberties, you know, and they change a lot. And sometimes they put these jokes or these reactions, these character reactions in there that still make no sense. It would have been better to leave the Japanese joke or the Japanese context intact, or it would have been the same. Because sometimes they make these jokes and we're like, wait, what's going on? Is that supposed to be funny, or what's going on here, right? So I think most people, especially JRPGs, right? Especially JRPGs, because they are the most heavily story-driven video games of all time. Well, okay, second to visual novels, but visual novels have the same problem, you know. I think these translators should be as faithful as they can to the original source, to the original material. Even if the context doesn't make a lot of sense, at least we'll know that, you know, that's exactly what the Japanese character said. They are respect, because when they change a lot of things, it's like they're insulting the original script. It's disrespectful to the original material, to the original script. You know, I'm not gonna write a book or a script and then see it completely changed just to please the American audience or the Canadian audience, you know. You know, it's just, it's degrading, you know. But so yeah. But I don't want to be too harsh on them, even though I am being too harsh. I know. Sorry to everyone who is a translator or works on that. But yeah, I mean, you guys need to stick a little bit more to the original script and material, even if we Americans can't understand some things, you know. I don't know. I think that's just my opinion. That's just my take. Because sometimes we've seen, you know, if you play video games with English subtitles and Japanese dub, Japanese voices, you may notice that sometimes the Japanese guy, you know, the voice actor is saying like a million words and the translation is hello. I mean, we aren't dumb people. You know, try to be more faithful to the original material. That's all. We have a problem here, guys. I'm very sorry. This can't wait. I apologize for this. But this is fucking ridiculous. God damn it. Anyway, okay, I'm seeing a lot of different opinions on the translation subject here. Anyway, thank you guys. This is the, yeah, this is the town from Raidou Kusunoha. Is the music going crazy? Yes, it is going crazy. Probably is. As usual. Give me 1 second, I'll fix it. There we go. It should be fixed right now. Sometimes it goes crazy, you know, after a while. At the beginning of my Q&As, the music sounds fine for a while, and then it goes ape shit and starts glitching, you know, and starts sounding like doubled or with some kind of echo, you know. I don't know why that happens, but, you know, we've found several fixes in the past. This is one of them, so... yeah, right now there's no music, you know, it's just ending. There's a new track has just started. I can't hear it. It's because I'm wearing these earphones because I want to hear the music too, that you guys are listening to. So sometimes I gotta, yeah, do this. Alright, so, does your brother play video games? No, not anymore. He watches anime, and he's gotten into anime in the past 2 years or so. But yeah, no, he barely touches video games. He plays mobile games sometimes. He's a big Saint Seiya fan. And he plays that gacha free-to-play Saint Seiya game, you know, but that's about it. What's your favorite video game soundtrack? Chrono Cross, of course. You know, I did a video on that, top 10 best JRPG soundtracks a long time ago. I should do it again, remake that very same video, because things have drastically changed from that original video. In that video there was too much Final Fantasy and Chrono. So yeah, I need to remake that video, you know. I come up with currently my 10 favorite JRPG soundtracks, but Chrono Cross is still my number one. Which JRPG is set in a prehistoric age? I don't know much, you know, probably not many. There's a character in Live Alive, which was recently remade on the Switch and PS4. There's one character and his entire arc takes place in the prehistoric era, you know. And but an entire JRPG that takes place in a prehistoric era, I'm not sure. You know, some people, I don't consider this as an RPG, some people do. It's called Evo, something like that, Evolution, whatever, you know, on the Super Nintendo. But you know, you evolve and then maybe that takes place in the prehistoric era, but I don't think of it as an RPG. There's no story in that game. And some some games, characters, Chrono Trigger, for example, they go back to the past and to the prehistoric eras and whatnot. Anyway, have you ever been to a video game concert where they play music from various games? No. I've never been in a live show in my entire life, because when people are too close to me and moving around, jumping, singing, and screaming, I get very dizzy, it fucks me up, man. It fucks me up. Nine Inch Nails is one of my favorite bands. Nine Inch Nails is my favorite band of all time, and they came to my city several years ago, and I didn't go see them because I can't be there. Sure, I can be in the very back where there's barely any people in there, but what's the point? There's just no point. I'd rather sit back on my couch and watch it on TV, So yeah, I've never been on a live music show in my entire life, because it just destroys me, Have you ever played Guardian Heroes on the Sega Saturn? I saw someone playing the game. I didn't play it. I saw someone playing it at a friend's house, but I didn't touch the game, so you could say that no, I haven't played it. But I'm very acquainted with the game. I know there's a sequel on the Game Boy Advance that I did play. That one I did play. It's pretty good. The Game Boy Advance sequel, it's pretty good. And then there's Code of Princess, which was basically done by some of the same guys who worked on Guardian Heroes. But yeah, I haven't played the Sega Saturn game. We don't want to open the Pandora's box on what's an RPG and what exactly is a role-playing game. No. We've opened that Pandora's box a long time ago, lots of times in the past, and no. And there's also it's a massive rabbit hole. It's probably gonna make us jump from one thing to another, and we'll probably end up talking about something else. Everyone I talk about, in person or online about what exactly is an RPG, we never really reach it. It's not like we never reach an agreement. It's more like, there's just no objective definition of what's a role-playing game. But anyway, enjoying the music? I can't hear a damn thing. Will you do a top 10 favorite dungeon crawler RPGs? No, I won't, because I'm not a fan of dungeon crawlers. And maybe the only ones that I kind of like are the Shin Megami Tensei dungeon crawlers. I don't think it's a good idea for me. Is Zelda an RPG? Is a hot dog a sandwich? It's the same, yeah. It's an agree to disagree answer. Have you seen the Chainsaw Man trailer? No. All games are an RPG because you play a role in every game. What about Tetris? Do you play a role in Tetris? You are the player, right? Is that an RPG too? Did you ever watch Avatar, The Last Airbender? The series, right? No. But I did play an RPG on the GameCube. I know there's one on the Nintendo DS, but there's also one on the GameCube, which is also on the Xbox and PlayStation 2. And, it was pretty decent. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. Pretty decent. And yes, it's like a turn-based RPG, I think. Or an action, I don't remember, but it's a role-playing game. In my opinion. Zelda 2. Yeah, a lot of people think Zelda 2 is the only RPG, but I'm not sure. I just think the RPG elements in Zelda 2 are bare bones. I think Breath of the Wild has more RPG elements, from what I've heard. I don't know. It's Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think of it as an RPG. You know what's an RPG for me? A game that feels like an RPG. That's it. Pretty much it. It's been over an hour and no donations. You guys don't like me anymore. You don't love me anymore. I can see your post. Have you played the first two Lunar games? Yes, I have. They're great games. My favorite version of Lunar 1, it's Silver Star Harmony on the PSP. In fact, that's the only Lunar version that I ever finished. I own the one on the PlayStation 1 because it was a gift from my friend Remy from France. Remy! Remy Guyon, I think. I'm not. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, But is that how? If you guys, is anybody from France here? I want to know how that name is pronounced. But it was a long time. It was like 3 years ago. He sent the complete Lunar Silver Star Story complete version. It was right there. And it's right there. I've shown it in my video game collection videos. It's complete with the cloth map and all. Thank you very much, Kiss. And an amazing gift. Thank you very much, Remy, if you're still a fan of this channel. And the second one, I played the PlayStation 1 version, not the Sega CD version. Because I remember I never finished Lunar 2. I should go back to it one day on the PlayStation. But Lunar 1, Lunar Silver Star, I think I've played every single version. Because I kind of had to for a video that I did. I don't remember which video it was, but it was a long time ago. But I remember having to play every version. I emulated every version. And I had my knowledge, for playing the PSP version, which is still my favorite. But I think the PS1 version of Lunar, the first one, looks beautiful. Looks really beautiful. All versions look great. I think the only one that I've never played is the mobile version, because I don't really give a shit. But yeah. Thank you very much, Oscar. When are we going to finish Donkey Kong Country? Well, oh, you mean the second one? We did finish the first one. You mean the second one? The second one. Maybe one of these days. Man, it's gonna take you a lot of convincing, because it's not that I didn't like the game. I just found it too difficult, too frustrating. Donkey Kong Country 2. Man, what a frustrating game. Is there an easy mode? Well, there's infinite continues, right, with this save slot. Scum. Do you like any Dragon Ball games? I played a bunch. I remember playing one on the PlayStation where the characters could fly. It was one of the very first Dragon Ball games where it was 3D and you could fly up in the sky and fight each other in there. That was awesome. I don't remember the name. And then I played one which is kind of like in 2.5D with the GT Saga, also on the PlayStation. That was good. I remember finishing that game. I don't know why I finished it, because it wasn't that great of a game, but it was great. It was good, decent. And then there's some PS2 games, the Budokai Tenkaichi games. I never really got into them. I played Dragon Ball Z Sagas, which is on the GameCube and the PlayStation 2. That's a little bit like... it's not an RPG, but it does have some RPG elements. You go from stage to stage. It's not a fighting game, but the bosses are like in a fighting game mode. You have these overworld areas where you go around, beating the crap out of enemies. It's a beat 'em up. I guess it's a beat 'em up, the Dragon Ball Z Sagas. And then there's the boss fights are like in 3D, but they are pretty much a fighting game. Pretty interesting game, pretty cool game. And then I played one at Oscar's house. What was he called? Made by Arc System Works. Damn, I forget the name, but that was really good. That game was really good. Dragon Ball Z something, made by Arc System Works. And you guys know me, Arc System Works, I'm a huge fan. It's not Xenoverse. I tried Xenoverse, you start with the character creation, then you go and train your character. I tried the first Xenoverse. Dragon Ball FighterZ, that's the one. Dragon Ball FighterZ, thanks. That's the one. Thank you, Mystic. Have you played the Sega Saturn JRPG Panzer Dragoon Saga? A little bit. I remember playing the first mission, and I got a glimpse of the battle system, but I only played one battle. I thought it was pretty original. I don't think there's anything like it before, and it has some really dark atmosphere to it. That's a pretty unique JRPG. Man, that's a holy grail on the Sega Saturn. It's one of the rarest JRPGs of all time, if not the rarest. I think it's the rarest, the holy grail of JRPGs, because it's like, what, $2,000, that freaking game, a copy of it. Desperately needs some kind of remaster, some kind of release, something, something. That game needs, it just can't be forgotten. It's such a unique game. But I never really got far into it. That's why you guys barely see me talking about Sega Saturn RPGs. I try not to cover them too much because, I've barely touched them. I played only a little bit of every one of them. What are your thoughts on Dragon Quest VIII Journey of the Cursed King? Every time I think about that game, the first two things that come into my mind are how beautiful it looks. That's a beautifully looking game. I'm a fan of cel-shaded graphics. And the second thing that immediately comes to mind is that it's a massive grind fest. I never finished the game because I spent many hours grinding for the right weapons. And I was over leveled and I had the right armor and equipment. And I went into the final dungeon and I died. And oh man, I was so pissed off. I think Dragon Quest VIII is one of the best Dragon Quest games. Did you know it wasn't developed by Enix? Enix. Who developed the first Dragon Quest games? Spike Chunsoft? No. Well, Yuji Horii, right? But the company had a name. But Dragon Quest VIII was developed by Level 5. The same guys who developed Dark Cloud 1 and 2, Rogue Galaxy, Ni no Kuni. But anyway, yeah. I think it's one of my favorite Dragon Quest games, 8, even though I never finished it. Kemco. Come on, man. Even though I never finished it, Dragon Quest VIII, many good memories. My favorite's still 11, but if I had to pick a second one, yeah, definitely Dragon Quest VIII. Well, it was ported to the 3DS. I mean, it's not a modern console per se anymore, the 3DS, but yeah, I mean, come on. I think that the problem is that 3DS version is very expensive and rare nowadays, so maybe it needs some kind of PS4 re-release, I don't know. I mean, I have the PS2 version. Why is Japan obsessed with medieval fantasy setting? Is that how you feel? I don't know. I see a lot of science fiction and modern stuff from Japan, especially nowadays. The best handheld today, the PS Vita forever. Today, yesterday, tomorrow, it will always be the PS Vita. The best handheld forever. Have you played Darkspire on the Nintendo DS? Yes, I did. I couldn't get into it. Amazing music, man. The Darkspire, amazing kick-ass music. But no, it wasn't my cup of tea, Have you played Summoner on the PS2? Yeah, I played it on the GameCube. And not for me, man. Let's leave it at that. That's a good question, Kiss. Thank you, because last night I was just thinking about that. You know how I've been doing all of these top 10 modern this, modern that, best modern turn-based JRPGs, best modern action, hardest modern, whatever. I kind of want to do the same with retro. Best retro action JRPGs. But then it begs the question, you're asking me, do you consider PS3 retro? And I had this same discussion with Oscar some time ago, and we made a video about that on our channel. And what exactly is retro nowadays? What's retro? And a lot of people say that the previous generation is already retro. So what is the PS4 retro? And I was like, okay, no, most people can agree PS4 is not retro because they're still releasing games. There's another argument that says, okay, retro is something that a company is not releasing games anymore. So the PS Vita is retro. They're not releasing games for it anymore. 3DS, is that retro? It just doesn't feel like retro, right? Because it was so... they were still releasing games for the PS Vita and the 3DS 2 years ago. How is that retro, right? So I guess we're all starting to think about the PS3. That's where most people are starting to draw the line. Okay, 3DS, no. PS Vita, no. PS4, no way. But what about PS3 and Xbox 360? Wii, Nintendo DS, PSP. That generation right there. Is that retro? That's another Pandora's box of a topic. You're right. It is, because it is very subjective, you know. For starters, you know, retro doesn't mean what we know, what we think it means. You know, it's something different. But it's such a term that its meaning and definition was changed by popular culture, you know, a long time ago. So we think of the word retro as something from the past, but there's still being released retro games today. Games with retro graphics, with 16-bit or 8-bit graphics. Are those games retro as well? You know, that's the Pandora's box right there that we're opening with this topic. But that's a good question. I'll give you my opinion. I think PS3 and 360 could be considered as retro, but I don't feel they are because the graphics in those consoles still look a little bit modern. PSP and the Nintendo DS are obviously weaker consoles in terms of hardware. And some of the games, a lot of games on the DS and PSP do feel and look a little bit dated, graphically speaking, and in terms of interface, loading times, controls. Some gameplay mechanics, you know, are kind of dated already in the PSP, but they just don't feel to me like something retro. Now PS2 is something that I'm starting to feel more like retro. You know, PS2 I think I can say it's retro. You know, it's been over 12 years since the last game, so maybe PS2. PS2 I have no problem. So if I ever do those videos, top 10 best retro this or retro that, I'll probably stick to PlayStation 2 era and below. But PSP, Nintendo DS, consoles that were released on the mid 2000s and onward, man, it's just, they just don't feel that retro to me yet. Maybe in a few years, maybe in 2-3 years, maybe. PS1 is retro, you know. PS1 is definitely retro. Dreamcast, because Dreamcast is the first console where games don't look, where the first console where games look, where the graphics resemble a little bit more modern graphics. Or I think the Dreamcast was like it laid the basis for modern graphics, and then the PS2 followed, the GameCube, the Xbox, and so on, right? So Dreamcast is another one that I'm kind of like, man, but it is retro. I think Dreamcast is retro, right? No more polygons, no more triangles, no more deformed characters like in the PlayStation 1 days. So yeah, Super Nintendo, Sega Saturn, I think everybody calls them retro nowadays. Everybody. There's no question. PlayStation. But PlayStation 2, I've seen a lot of people calling it retro already. GameCube, the original Xbox, you know. There are kind of more and more people, YouTubers, you know, regular people in forums, gamers worldwide, magazines, you know, they're already starting to consider those consoles as retro. So I think that's where I'm gonna draw my line. That's my answer. So, to answer your question, Kiss, no, I don't consider the PlayStation 3 retro yet. Because the majority of the gameplay mechanics, the graphics, the controls in those games feel just as good as any game today to me personally. 360 games is the same, you know. They don't feel dated at all. So PS3, no. PS2, yes. A lot of games still feel great to play today. Well, there are a lot of PS2 games or GameCube games where it's like, this feels kind of dated already. Or it's starting to feel dated. Same with the Nintendo DS and PSP, but I just can't bring myself to feel or to think of them as retro consoles, you know. Let's just stick with PS2 and that's it. GameCube, Xbox, and below. That's it. We're still arguing here. Anyway, 10 things you didn't know about Brave Story. Nah, man, that series is over, you know, there's just no interest in them. well, what I gotta do is 10 things you didn't know about this popular JRPG that just came out, because everybody's talking about. Maybe if I did one on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But most of the focus of those videos that I've done, 10 things you didn't know about, are about things from the past. Documented things about the history of these games. So most, if not all, modern JRPGs, you know, they don't have a lot of documentation. I remember when I did a video for Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2, 10 things you didn't know about, and I had a lot of issues finding information about the game because it was like 5 years old when I made the video. It wasn't that old, you know, and there's just there's no nostalgia for it. There's, oh, I love those games, but people still think, you know, going back to the retro question, people still think of Trails of Cold Steel as a modern game. You know, it's not retro. There's no real nostalgia for it yet. It's not a thing of the past. So that's why I don't think of PS3 as retro. But anyway, about the series, 10 things you didn't know about, it's just very hard to do because it's impossible to know which videos are gonna do well and which are not. I've tried modern games, not so modern games, retro games, and some have succeeded greatly, and some failed miserably. So it's such an unpredictable series that I decided to kill it again. It was dead before last year. I killed it, and then I tried coming back to that series a few months ago, and it just didn't work again. I tried covering a bunch of modern games. I did Radiant Historia, massive failure. Tales of Berseria, well, it wasn't a failure of a video, but it didn't do very well. And then Wild Arms, that's a retro game. I thought it was going to be successful, and it wasn't. It just, I don't know, man. I don't think there's a lot of interest in people knowing about the history of background of the games, who made them, how were they made, why were they made like this. Or maybe there's a lot of interest, maybe just people don't want to see me talking about that. I don't know. I know a lot of you are massive fans of that series, and I love making that series, but it's just not worth my time, man. This is what I do for a living. This channel is what I do for a living. So I can't continue making an unsuccessful series of videos. Maybe one day there'll be more interest. I don't know, but for now, it's over. Top 10 romance in JRPGs. I guess I could do that, but I'm not really interested in doing something like that, you know. It's just doesn't feel like an Eric Lennon RPG topic. Do you recommend the Lufia games? Yes, I do. Well, problem with Lufia is that there's only one game in the entire series that is amazing, and that is Lufia 2, which is the prequel to the entire series, so it's the best place to start with the Lufia series. And the others are kind of like, you know, the first one on the Super Nintendo has major or extremely outdated problems. It's not fun to play anymore. Lufia on the Game Boy Color is decent, but it's not great. It's not that great. And Lufia on the Game Boy Advance is kind of generic. And then they made a remake of Lufia 2 on the Nintendo DS, but they turned it into an action RPG. And it's not bad. I think people are too harsh on that game, but it's not great either. So, do I recommend the Lufia series? I recommend Lufia 2, and maybe the one on the Game Boy Color, and that's it. Have you finished Persona Q2 yet? No, I probably never will. I think it's safe to say that I have abandoned that game. You know, I'm just not a dungeon crawler in first-person guy. I'm just not. These games are, I know they have been trending for a while and people are nuts about them. That's why they make so many of them nowadays. But I'm just not a fan, you know, I'm not a fan. And I mean, it's 2022 and playing games with random encounters. Some of them. How would you feel on a Final Fantasy theme park? What? I mean, it's not out of the question, especially if Disney one day buys Square Enix, which is not out of the question. You know, Disney wants to buy everything nowadays. Final Fantasy theme park. Isn't there a Dragon Quest theme park in Japan already? Top 10 fan service moments in JRPGs? Nah, completely shadow banned the video. That will be a massive failure of a video, Miami, and you know that. YouTube's gonna censor and shadow ban that video as much as it can. I mean, why? I mean, how? It just baffles me nowadays that something like Nier Automata got away with all the fan service. But and then we've seen worst cases of censorship in recent years. I mean, it's just the huge stupidity of censorship. And you know what? If you talk about censorship, you get less money. You know how I complained about one of the first clips that I uploaded to my second channel of these Q&As was my criticism towards censorship. If you go to my second channel right now, link in the description, there's a clip that I call the stupidity of censorship, and it got like, I don't remember, probably 3,000 views, I don't know. You wanna know how much I made? I don't like sharing my numbers, but for this one I have to prove my point. How even if you talk about censorship, YouTube doesn't pay you. They don't like you when you criticize censorship, or when you criticize companies and their idiotic policies, moronic policies on censorship. Of censor. Shit. Wow, it doesn't even appear here. Oh, there he is. 3,500 views. My clip. Well, I know it's gonna hard to believe for you guys, but I made $1.58 out of that video. Okay, I guess companies don't want their ads showing up in a video about censorship. Anyway, so no, Miami, that video is not gonna happen. Maybe I can get away, maybe I can try to think of something, maybe I can change the title a little bit. I don't know, maybe top 10, the sexiest, no. Is that word wrong nowadays? Sexy? Is that an offensive term nowadays? Gee, I don't know. So, I don't know, maybe if I put my mind to it, I can come up with a title and get away with it and do it. And put, Jean from Suikoden, from the Suikoden series in number 1. Because that's honestly the most sexualized female character I've seen in a normal RPG. Normal, I mean. I'm not saying Compile Hard or something like that, a Suikoden is a series, serious series established, and seriously established, but that character is like, wow, not even Compile Hard or Idea Factory could come up with that in their wildest dreams. What is the video that keeps earning you good money? Top 10s, top 10s. Even reviews, believe it or not, they don't make a lot of money, Top 10s is where the money is. I don't know why, I honestly would like to make more money out of other types of videos so I could make more of those types of videos, But I guess, companies who put ads in my videos love my top 10 so much. Like, hey, he just made a review. Oh no, I don't want to advertise my product in that. I want these guys' top 10s. There's not a lot of money on YouTube, guys. It's a lie, I've seen a lot of young people nowadays, young people from the other next generation, the new generation on their early 20s or late teens, and I've seen the polls, the news. We talk often about this with my family, how everybody wants to be a YouTuber nowadays. They have no idea, it's just no. Unless you have hundreds of thousands of views and subscribers or millions, you make, I don't know, the minimal. It's just, no, there's not a lot of money. It's a lie. It's a huge fucking lie. There's not a lot of money on YouTube. We don't make a lot of money, A complete horseshit. Anyway, what would you like to see A new Grandia game again. Oh, would you like to see a new Grandia game again? Yes, there's a lot of series that I want to see revived. I made a video a long time ago about that. I was gonna remake that video recently. I thought about it, but I didn't do it because the original video has like 20-something thousand views. And even though that video has shitty quality, I think the script is decent and the list is very decent. Grandia was there, Suikoden was there, Growlancer. What else was there? Golden Sun. I think Golden Sun was there, even though I'm not the biggest Golden Sun fan. It was there. Wild Arms, Breath of Fire, all the Valkyrie profile. Well, the video doesn't make it's outdated. It's an outdated video because Valkyrie profile is there and it's getting revived. I mean, it got revived with a mobile bullshit game, and now this Elysium spin-off. But yeah, I will definitely love to see a new Grandia game. But you know what? It's gonna be an action RPG. I hope it doesn't. I'm gonna put back the music. Let me know if it goes ape shit again. It probably will. I'm just gonna turn it down a little bit. Always a good time with you guys hanging out. I like these Sundays, I like these Sundays, I look forward to them. I'm tempted to do these Q&As every Sunday, every week. But I don't want people to get too tired of them. Like, oh, he's doing them very often nowadays. So I'm still thinking about it, But I'm always looking forward to these Q&As. I'm like, ever since the, I don't know, it's Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'm like, oh, next Sunday is the Q&A. I can't wait. It's just, I don't have much of a social life. I only have a few friends, and the only friend that I hang out with is Oscar. He's gone. He was just here a moment ago. And with my other friends, they live so far away or in other countries, so I don't hang out with them. So my Discord and my Q&As are my social life. Oh, I guess we don't call it family life, right? A VTuber? Nah, man, do you really want to see a freaking character? Wait a second. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go the VTuber way. Probably never. But I guess it will be fun to make just one video, one stupid video, not a serious video. Just a joke video, and a character talking, with my voice. And I will make this really bizarre, horribly looking character or something really funny, something really stupid, That'll be interesting, to make a VTuber video. But you know how people are nowadays. You make whatever and oh no, that's what the channel is gonna be like from now on. Oh, he's gonna be a VTuber now. Oh no, let's unsubscribe. Fuck Eric Land. That's how people are nowadays. It's unbelievable, I was just talking about this with another fellow YouTuber a month ago, and it's so unbelievable the reasons why people unsubscribe to channels, We've seen a drop. Some people, not every single YouTuber out there. Others are still on the rise. But YouTubers like me have seen a drop in subscriptions this year because it's just unbelievable. For whatever. Oh, he's wearing an Emil t-shirt from Nier. I hate Nier, so fuck this guy, unsubscribe. Okay, dude. It's unbelievable the reasons why people leave. I mean, if they don't like my opinion or my videos, if I don't like someone, I'm not going to watch that someone. I'm not going to subscribe to that channel. But for doing something or saying something that I didn't like or disagreed with, wow. Anyway, make yourself a VTuber and use a voice changer to bait the weeps. Nah. I mean, if I changed my voice, it just wouldn't be me, It would just be this bizarre thing, Nah. I'm interested in trying this VTuber thing just for one video, but you guys know me, I probably won't do it. It's just... I saw your short film. Oh, thanks. I thought it was very creative. I know it's hard to put yourself out there, so much respect to you. Thank you, Juan. Yeah, that was a really interesting video. It took me weeks to film it. If you guys are interested, I used to do short films way before I became a YouTuber, and I did 3-4 on this channel. They're all here. That particular short film, the first one, it's got English subtitles made by yours truly. No closed caption bullshit, no. I put those subtitles manually in there, so everything makes sense. And it's a great it's something different, right, from this channel. You know, if you want to see what I was doing way before I became a JRPG YouTuber, you know, you can do that. You can watch those short films. There's another one that is really good called Plastic Heart. No English subtitles in there, sorry. And then there's another one with no dialogue, completely silent short film. So you can watch it even if you're from Jupiter, you know. I'm serious, actually. You don't need to know any language to watch that short film. It's called The Phantoms of God. And that's a very abstract short film. There's a story in there, you know, but it's hard to spot. Thank you, man, for watching my short film. You know, it was its anniversary a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, that was what I wanted to do 10 years ago, short films. And I ended up quitting because after making 4 short films, I realized how hard it is to make them, and I wasn't having a lot of fun doing them. You know, all the acting, all the scripting, you know, the camera position, the quality. That video, you know, back then it had a acceptable quality, but right now if you watch that short film, you know, it looks like shit, like in 360p or something. But anyway, yeah, thanks for asking about my short film. The character in that. It was an interesting performance. I don't think of myself as a good actor, but it was an interesting performance in that short film because the character, the protagonist, he's supposed to be lying. He's supposed to be a liar. So the performance needed to be a little bit like, I don't know. I had a lot of, you know, creative ideas on how I was going to perform this character. But anyway, you know, I'm not gonna spoil anything. You're lonely? I'm lonely. I'm alone in the world. Thank you, Connie. How goes your work as an author? Terrible. You know, people don't read books nowadays unless you're really, really famous, you know. I am a starving writer, like millions of writers out there. It's Every single author that I know has been struggling for the past since forever, since I met them. It's so hard to sell books nowadays, you know. Maybe one day I'll write scripts for JRPGs, for indie RPGs, maybe, because that's all I can do, you know. I can maybe contribute to the music a little bit, because I was a musician, but I'm not a good musician. I'm not a great musician, but as an author, you know, I can write stories and create characters, and that's it. You know, but yeah, books is just no. I've thought about visual novels, you know. I did one. It's called the Sephira Project, but it got completely blocked from on YouTube because I used music from bands. You know, I mean, you can't see this. This series has been on private here on my channel for the past 11 years. Wow! Ooh, holy shit, man! I'm getting older. 11 years old. I made that. It's a visual novel, pretty much, but the characters talk in text in rectangles, like in JRPGs, right? But there's no action in there. No, it's just reading and music. You know, there's no voice acting or anything. You know, and I used sprites from Gaia Online. Gaia Online. That's a MMORPG website. I think it's dead. I'm not sure if it's still going nowadays, but I used to play that a lot back in the day, 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And I used sprites from there, you know, and I just put them there. It was fun to do because back then when I made that series, that little visual novel, you know, I was very depressed. And it was a way to keep me occupied making that visual novel and yeah. But yeah, you can't find that visual novel anymore because I unlisted. It's still on YouTube, but it's private. You can't watch it because, you know, every single video has copyright from the bands. Copyright, a bunch of copyright claims because I used music from Deftones, from Nine Inch Nails, from Fear Factory, from, you know, from bands. from several bands. There's like 5 songs per episode. Each episode is like 20 minutes long, you know. It's like a short, it's 11 episodes, you know, the Zephyra project. Maybe I'll post it someday, you know, but it also doesn't have any copyright. So maybe I need to protect it first. But anyway, yeah. Do you like any 18 plus games or stuff like GTA? You mean like Grand Theft Auto? Yes, I do a lot. I mean, I play a lot of video games that are 18 plus. Sure. I mean, isn't Nier 18 plus? Or if you like games like Grand Theft Auto, you know, I'm not a fan of Grand Theft Auto. I don't know. I just don't see the fun of it. You know, I've tried them. I've tried a couple of them, and nope, it wasn't for me. I thought you were asking about, I don't know, those types of 18 plus games. Oh man, it will be interesting to see one day a JRPG. I mean, there probably is. I'm pretty sure there is. There's gotta be a bunch of them in Japan. None of them made it outside. But, you know, a real hentai JRPG. But a JRPG, not a visual novel. No, because there's a lot. I know there's hentai visual novels since the 80s. But I mean like a turn-based RPG with a story, you know, but with the hentai. Ah, man, that's never gonna make it to North America. It'll probably stay in Japan forever. Did you try Red Dead Redemption or LA Noire? LA Noire, I did. I didn't like it. You start in this car, I remember, you know, and you gotta drive around. I didn't like it, you know. Red Dead Redemption, I didn't because I didn't bother with it. I was like, man, I'm not gonna like it, so what's the point? So there are a lot of... There are... I knew it. I knew there are hentai RPGs. I knew it. How's the music? Is it jumping all over? Is it glitchy as usual? If it is, then fuck it. It's the last segment of my Q&A. Do you think Nintendo is having less censorship than Sony is part of the reason why JRPGs are exploding on the console? Probably, yeah, pretty much. I've seen complaints from Idea Factory and PQ Entertainment and other smaller companies that they don't want to release their games on PlayStation console anymore because of the censorship. So yeah, and Nintendo obviously got advantage of that. Nintendo used to be the biggest censorship console, pro-censorship console of all. You know, it used to be like, no, everything needs to be safe and friendly. And nowadays it turned 180 degrees, man. Like they welcome, you know, all types of nonsensical fan service and really depraved and perverted and politically incorrect games into their beautiful Switch with low resolution graphics. This year, do you think there will ever be a Lost Odyssey 2? I consider that I made a video recently called 10 JRPGs that should be turned into a series, that should be their own series. I thought about Lost Odyssey, but I'm not sure about a Lost Odyssey 2, because, you know, it's not a cliffhanger at the end, but something happens at the end. Don't spoil it, please, if you know what I'm talking about. That maybe we would like to see more of that, come back to that, you know, and see what happens if there's something to be done about that. So I don't know how a Lost Odyssey sequel will work. I have no idea. Or maybe another game in the series with the protagonist being immortal. I'm not sure, you know. I don't think there's ever gonna be one because, you know, Mistwalker, the developers seem way too focused on creating games for mobile devices that they just don't give a fuck about the console market anymore. That's really sad. What was your first ever... I don't think we're gonna see a Lost Odyssey sequel, and I'm not sure it's gonna work. What kind of censorship has Sony done? They censor a lot of really dumb things. Like, they don't want to localize certain games because the girls have big boobs, or they completely remove the kinky kind of edgy mini game. Mary Skelter had the sequels. It's stuff like that, or girls are a little bit more covered up, stuff like that. They have been censoring a lot for no reason. Really stupid things, to be honest. What's your first ever JRPG? That was Final Fantasy Legend 2 on the Game Boy, which is Saga 2, pretty much. They just changed the name to Final Fantasy to take advantage of the fame, popularity, the rising popularity of Final Fantasy. What was your first PC game? I don't know. That was probably a floppy disk platformer, something like that. Did you try Stray? Oh, the one with the cat? They're doing a lot of memes about it, but no, I haven't played that game. A sequel to Child of Light? I never finished Child of Light. It's there in the backlog. I'll probably come back to it one of these days. Last questions, guys. Did you ever play Kid Icarus? I did on the NES. I don't think you want to know my opinion. I didn't like it, but that was a long time ago. I probably should go back and play it again just to see if my opinion has changed, but I didn't like the game one bit. And I've never tried the 3DS one. I don't know if it's a sequel or a remake, but I didn't try that one. Only the original NES. Did you ever watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? Why are you asking that question again? I just told you. Wow. 2 questions in a row. Phantonium Nitrous. I don't think you pay attention to my answers. Ever played any Flash RPGs? Flash RPGs? You mean Flash as in, like, in the computer? Like they're so... something like that? Or do you mean Flash about the character Flash, the superhero? Anyway. How long was your playthrough of Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Okay, so I did 55 hours. I got a lot of the heroes. And I skipped most of the regular side quests. The ones that are like fetch quests or do this, bring me that, bring me 10 types of this item, I don't like those side quests in any video game, so I skipped most of the side content. I played the game on normal mode from beginning to end, and I did 55 hours. So pretty much the only side content that I did was recruit most of the heroes. I didn't get all of them. The thing is that I was playing it for 5 hours a day, probably 6 hours every day, because I wanted to finish the game. I didn't rush it because 55 hours, I mean, for someone like me. But I needed to finish the game so I could upload the review last Friday. And I don't think it was a mistake, but I think it may have been kind of soon. Because I think most people are still playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's such a long-ass game. I think it's the longest Xenoblade game ever. Well, maybe X is longer. I've barely played X, so I don't know much about it. But I've played all the others, and this just really felt like the longest of them all. And I think a lot of people are still playing the game, So I think my review may have been too soon. But the reason I put only 55 hours, even though this is a game that where I really wanted to put more hours into it, I wanted to recruit all the heroes. But I kind of wanted to upload my review last Friday, Because I think that when it comes to reviewing games, they get released on, a certain day. And if you take more than 2 weeks to upload your review, I think people have already lost interest by that point because there's so many games being released nowadays that there's like 3 major titles every month, 2 or 3, right? So right now the interest is going to start shifting towards Soul Hackers 2. Or maybe this Diofield Chronicle game, I don't know. Or maybe the Xenoblade Chronicles hype will last longer because it's a big game, it's a big deal of a game. It's a really popular game. It was very anticipated. It's a AAA game. AAA games always get the attention for a long time. It's an amazing game, man. But yeah, I did 55 hours. Are there any JRPGs without anime? Yes, there are a bunch of them, not too many, but you get Vandal Hearts, for example. Vandal Hearts 1 and 2, that's not your usual anime style. It's a Japanese game, sure, but you got the Souls series, all of them, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, they look like Western RPGs, right? Like, they look like The Witcher 3, like Gothic. Did you guys watch the new Gothic 1 remake trailer? I was like, man, how can a game be called Gothic and you're showing us a bunch of miners and a bunch of spiders at the end? Yeah, super fucking Gothic, right. But anyway, it looks like that in their Japanese game. So there are some Japanese RPGs with no anime. The style, the artistic style is different, way different, but there aren't that many. Yeah, Vandal Hearts is the first one that always comes to mind. It just looks really different. Vandal Hearts 1 and 2. Well, I guess the third one as well. It doesn't really look anime. How many hours did you play Final Fantasy 12? Keep in mind, I've only finished the original version, the PS2, and it was around that. It was like 50 something hours. And I'm pretty sure half of that is because of the grinding. That's a massive grind fest. Massive grind fest. So, yeah. It was like 50 something hours. I just didn't have the exact amount because I have like 4 PlayStation 2 memory cards, but there's one that I'm missing. I don't know what happened to it, and that's the one where my Final Fantasy 12 file was on. Have you played any Yakuza game? Yes, I have the original Yakuza on the PlayStation 2. It wasn't my cup of tea, and that's when I realized, this is a series that is not for me. And before you ask about Yakuza Like a Dragon, I'll get to it, I promise. I made a promise to my buddy Retroidvaniac, and I'll get the game at some point. Don't worry, it's bound to happen. I mean, it happened with... A lot of people kept asking me for years if I was gonna play Final Fantasy VII Remake for a long time. It's like in every Q&A they were asking, have you gotten to play it? And I finally did this year, on January, and I loved it. Would you consider Final Fantasy XII a good game? Yes, I think it's one of the best Final Fantasy games. Well, one of my favorites. It's not the best, because it's not for everybody. I know it's very different, it plays like an MMORPG. But yeah, I think it's a great game. Do you think the Kuro no Kiseki games will be localized soon? Or NIS will localize faster than every decade? Well, right now they have a lot on their plates. First, they gotta localize the Crossbell Duology. We're getting the first one in October, I think. And then the next game will be the second game in the Crossbell Duology, Trails from Azure. Yeah, we're getting that next year, and then we'll probably get Trails from the Reverie, which is the 5th Cold Steel game, I think. They got a long way to go. We probably won't see Kuro no Kiseki until 2025, man. Pretty sure. I gotta go, guys. Have some family issues I gotta tend to. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. This was another revision and version and edition of the goddamn Q&A. I'll see you next time, I guess. Like I said, I'm considering making these Q&A sessions every Sunday. Right now, I don't think it's gonna be possible because I'm in the process of maybe moving out of where I live soon. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know. Pay attention to the community section. That's where I usually make these notices. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.